No, I've bumped into Brad at No Till on the Plains and some other things, and he's done some amazing things on his family farm that he's going to share with us. He's also an agronomist with Ducks Unlimited, and they're doing some things that responding to consumer trends and ecosystem services and those kind of things that I think he'll share more about that on Friday during his breakout session. So let's introduce Brad Schmidt.
All right, yeah, as Monty said, I'm Brad, and he did put me on after lunch, so I'm going to try to work my best at keeping everybody awake here. So, we're all here today as we come as a commonality, right? We come to challenge ourselves to think differently, and that's kind of what the whole thing is about, paradigm shifts. We're trying to shift that paradigm on how we think differently. And I'm going to challenge everybody here today as to know why we're all here. Right? Are we here because we're involved with agriculture? In a way, yes. But how are we all connected, not just everybody here, but how are we connected to everybody around the world? How are we connected to the people that are running audio systems in the back? How are we connected to the people that work in the rural areas and in the urban areas of not just the United States, but all across the world? And I'm going to say that is soil. Right? That's why we're all here, and that's why we're all connected. So the basis of life. Right? What do we need to survive as people? Well, one, we need food. Whether we're a meat eater or a vegetarian, we have to consume food to survive. Next thing we need is water. We have to hydrate ourselves, right? And then air. We have to breathe oxygen. Now, what do those all have in common? They are all founded from the soil, right? Everything that we need to survive as people is generated from soil. So what is the basis of life? It is soil. Like I said, it doesn't matter if you're vegetarian, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter if you're in the middle of New York City or if you're in the middle of Montana. You are connected with that person because of soil. So Franklin Roosevelt once said that a nation that destroys itself or destroys its soil destroys itself. And this is very true. But have we forgotten about soil? In the 1930s, we had the dust storm. The Dust Bowl. It took out everything. So did we learn from that? Well, 2018 in South Dakota, as you can tell from these pictures, that's not smoke. That ain't no wildfire or something like that. That's in Ipswich, South Dakota. That's blowing soil. Here again, Highmore, South Dakota. This is this year, this last summer. If you can see, there's a car right there. All right? This is from blowing soil. This is the next day after everything was settled, all the dust had settled. That snow is drifted in, or that soil is drifted in like snow. This needs to stop happening. So have we still forgotten about soil? It seems like we have. But when we go through education, I just came out of college here 2 years ago. We're taught the basis of life. So we get taught about photosynthesis. We get taught about, how plants pull in CO2 and they need sunlight and they need water to cycle nutrients and then produce oxygen that we need. And it grows on all this stuff here, all this brown stuff, right? Called minerals, evidently. Then we learn about the food chain. The food chain starts with the producer, right? We learn about producers, primary consumers, secondary, tertiary, and then we have final and then decomposers. But it all starts with grass, right? And then it ends with fungi, obviously. Then we learn about the water cycle. So it rains, then it percolates into groundwater, evaporation and transpiration, and once again, we have this brown stuff. But we were never taught what this brown stuff is, what it does, how it functions. Then we go to the carbon cycle. All right, we got plants, they take in that carbon. Great, fantastic. Then we have people, because we emit carbon. Then we have cows, they emit carbon. Then again, we have all this brown stuff. But now, what did all this brown stuff and all of these have in common? right? What is that all? It's a base, right? Now any big any big building has to start with something. What do we start with before we start to build any big building? We start with the foundation. If we don't build a good foundation, we don't have life. So now, soil is the foundation of life. And it's very fitting to me that, how when we pass on, that we actually get buried down in that soil again. Everything that we took from that soil our entire lives, we get put back in it to recycle those nutrients again. Now, I know Gabe showed this earlier, but I seen it in one of Gabe's presentations the first time I heard him talk and watched all of his stuff on YouTube and everything like everybody else has. But if you want to make small changes, you have to change the way you do things. If you want to make big changes, you have to change the way you see things. This is very, very fitting because, I just like Gabe, I think about this every single day, is how I can still completely change my mind and think about things differently. It doesn't have to be in agriculture. It doesn't have to be, it can just be my daily life. So now we had to go through all this stuff and I had to figure out how to see things differently, not only, in my life, but how to do things on the farm and how to do things better as in my career, right? So I had to ask myself, what soil do I choose? Now ask yourself, what soil do you choose? Do you choose the soil that is aggregated? Do you choose the soil that's full of roots, full of life? Or do you choose the soil at soil B on the right that's dead, has nothing in it? Do you choose a soil that infiltrates water? Or do you choose a soil that runs off water? Do I choose a soil that's covered, or do I choose a soil that's not covered? I need to protect myself from erosion so I can hold that moisture in there and produce my crops, not only to feed our plants, but our animals as well. And this here is a piece of our land here. On the left side, side A, is a year and a half into no-till. There's some new stuff that we had acquired. I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's rows of corn growing here, and it's planted the same day as our conventional neighbors. But that doesn't work here. Remember that, right? Doesn't work here. So that's how we kind of got started on the path of Heartland Heritage Farms, and that's who we are. So Heartland Heritage Farms, we are a family-owned operation out of Garvin, Minnesota. We're a century farm. It's been in the family for 100 years. So the 7-foot-tall guy here, right, because that's about how tall I am, standing in our cereal rye, that's my grandpa. So he's an ex-dairy farmer. He's been 5 years no-till, and he's been doing cover crops. He's got cropland and cattle. Then my dad holding the radish. He's an ex-carpenter, 6-year no-till, cover crops, and he's got cropland, sheep, and pigs. And then myself, I am an agronomist for Ducks Unlimited, got my bachelor's degree in agriculture science, and I'm the 6th generation coming back to the family farm. So one thing we had to sit here and battle with is our laziness, right? We as people were lazy. That's why we started inventing tools and everything like that, because we're lazy. We don't want to work. I know I don't want to work as much as I have to, right? But the one thing we had to figure out is how we forgot how nature functions, and we forgot where we came from. We always say that we're doing the same thing that Dad and Grandpa did, back in the day, but we're even lazier than they were, right? They were diverse. They had 4 or 5 different crop species. They had 4 or 5 different livestock species. They were diverse. We are not even anywhere close. The only thing same that we're doing is tillage. So we had to figure out how to get back from this laziness, right? We took horses and we started making fast cars. I don't know about you, but I can't find a stock trailer that fits 450 horses under that hood like they have. It's pretty impressive. But I tend to think that we kind of went a little too fast, got up on that car a little too quick. I think we could venture around with a few different types of horses. So along with this complicated laziness, we took something simple yet complex and we engineered it. Right? This simple, complex creature cost about $1,500. And we made it into a planter. Cow's got 4 legs. Made it into a harvester. Cow's got a mouth. Made it into a baler. Made it into a sprayer or herbicide application. Cows eat, right? Made it into our fertilizer. Made it into our fertilizer spreader. We spent billions of dollars on engineering a cow. Pretty crazy. But I don't remember the last time I stuck my teeth into a piece of iron, but it don't taste as good as one of them, I tell you that. So through this complicated laziness, we've also gone into poor management. Through this poor management, we have people thinking that we have cattle in these areas here. Well, just like Gabe said, how good is that going to taste? It makes you really want to eat beef, right? Well, now we're starting to go to lab-grown meats. A lab-grown meat is not going to help cure the climate problems that we're having right now. Proper management of livestock and cattle and everything else is going to cure that problem that we have, because we can pump more carbon into the soil by grazing correctly. So we had to unlearn many things, and we had to relearn. We had 100 years, like I said, that we had to unlearn and now relearn new things. We had to learn how to keep on hitting this easy button by still increasing our profit. And notice I said profit and not yield. Okay, it's all about making money. So how do we do that? By learning and implementing the soil health principles. No tillage, applying the soil armor, living root 24/7, 365, diversity, livestock, and mimicking nature. Now with all of that becomes more management, right? Now, more management is not more work. Remember that. More management does not mean more work. More management means more thought process, just like we're talking about here. It's a paradigm shift. It's that whole thinking process. And that's how we can change soil, by implementing these practices. There's some of our soils, both of our soils, fence line to fence line. The one had livestock and the other didn't. That's from this soil here on the left was for just adding livestock to that cropland. So how we started, our story is kind of long, and I'll go into that more tomorrow. It's a pretty good story, I guess. But like I said, we'll go into that more tomorrow. But we stopped tillage, we planted cover crops, and we diversified. Now, I would not be here today if it weren't for a lot of these people on here. Some of these people are in the room today. I feel very honored to be even on the stage with speaking with some of these people. But Dr. Dwayne Beck here on the left, he was the one that kind of started me off into everything. He's from Pierce, South Dakota, runs Dakota Lakes Research Farm, and I owe almost everything that I know today from learning from Dwayne. And then plus everybody else in here. Everybody else has got awesome, amazing minds, and they're great people to learn from. I also wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for my girlfriend, Ashley. She's been by my side for 7 years now, and wouldn't change it. So, thank you.